we are 10 minutes extra on our break, so that's cut into the time we were going to show the video of Malcolm X speaking on themes of global solidarity and internationalism. We're trying to fit that video in a bit later, so we'll just slightly rejig the schedule. We're going to go with Dr. Saeb Shaaath first, who's probably, you all know well, he's a Belfast resident. He's former PLO diplomat to Ireland. I consider him a close comrade. We've been working together now for several years, particularly around the issues of Syria and also subsequently Libya as well. Dr. Shaaath has been very kind to come over to London to speak a couple of times at some conferences that we've organised. And then we have also Comrade Jerry McLaughlin from Derry, who again probably most of you know. Perhaps not, but I know Jerry quite well. He's been quite close comrades for some close comrades of mine in London, including Comrade Keith especially, who I'm sure you'll appreciate the name drop on his behalf. He sends his love and respect and solidarity. And Jerry's a former IRA POW, former Sinn Féin councillor as well from Derry. So we're going to start with Dr. Shaaath. And then I'm going to exit the room while he's speaking. Forgive me for doing that. Trying to get our Commandante online speaking with us. So please welcome Dr. Shaaath, who's going to speak on the legacy of Malcolm X and internationalism. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Glad to be here with you. We mark today nearly 50 years of the assassination of Hajj Malik al-Shabazz. That's what Malcolm X loved to call himself. The significance of a man like Malcolm to the people in the United States of America, North America, and around the world, it's a huge significance, and especially we discover this day by day. What he was calling on major stuff of the unity among the black Africans in America, and token of ideas, which is we can see it, how it's working in the United States of America and around the world, like the internal colony he spoke of. The internal colony created the African Americans as being colonized within their own body by the education and reconditioning with the system happened to them and did to them in the United States of America. And the best man within the civil rights movement in the United States of America at the time, or worldwide, to articleize that was Malcolm. Malcolm spoke and he called for global unity among the revolutionaries and anti-imperialists. This, if you heard the speech by Dr. Ibrahim Musa, and he was talking in it about the confusion happening to a lot of people, and he was apologetic as well about not informing and what happened to the Libyan revolution and how NATO destroyed Libya within 35,000 air strikes. No, he shouldn't. We lost that unity. We, the revolution around the world, weren't there outside in the anti-war campaign or movement trying to go to the streets and defend Libya. We thought it's really a revolution and it's about time to get of a Libya. It's Libya at the time, as he emphasized, and other Arabic countries, like specifically I'm talking here Libya, Syria, and we know the story before Iraq. Iraq, where everyone knew the lies. We're happening from 1990 up to 2013. 13 years of lie after lie after lie, and we were confronting these lies and telling the people, and marches went from Derry up to London, people in chains, the human chains connecting hands, refusing that. Millions went to the street, and still the British government went in there, and George Bush came to here, to Hillsborough Castle, with Tony Blair, and they committed the biggest genocide in the world at the time was in Libya, in Iraq, and the same thing happening in Libya. And we know, I know myself, maybe Dr. Ibrahim Musa emphasized on the golden dinar this is a huge thing to the United States of America, of course, but as well, Libya was punished because it stood by the Republican movement in Ireland. Heavily punished because of supporting the people of Ireland. We shouldn't forget that point. This is when I'm talking how Malcolm was calling for international unity of the revolutionaries. In Africa, he visited the Middle East, he visited the African countries, he learned, and he emphasized to the African people, he said, we should learn from our brothers in struggle, and he picked the Algerian model at the time. And that's when Black Panther start to re-educate its cadres and followers. They used the Algerian model. The French is, when I want to just remember the incident of Charlie Hebdo and the British colonizing of Algeria. 1.5 million Arab Algerians were slaughtered. There is images today of, which is of course we unearthed, and there is on archives today, exactly the same. You think it's ISIL who were in Algeria. French soldiers playing football with the skulls of Algerian martyrs. The same sort of slaughter ISIL is doing in Syria or in Libya or in the north of Iraq, the French did in there. This is the same mentality which telling us it's the same school who create the squads they created in Latin America, destroyed Chile when Chile wasn't going to listen and lend to the interests of multinationals in the United States of America to keep this mine or that mine under the control of the multinationals. Then what happens? A coup. The friends of Maggie Thatcher, Pinochet, slaughters hundreds of thousands of leftist and intellectuals in there. And the School of the Economy of Chicago, the New Liberals School, imposed its model of capitalism and New Liberals policies, which the World Bank today import by force to African countries, Arabic countries, whatever countries, and that is the model you see. You know, in here, if we notice as well, before 1991, before the first war on Iraq, and then the continuous collapse of the Soviet Union, before that we have some sort of politics in here, an economical system, we call it the soft Keynesianism. After the Second World War and the devastation of Europe, and of course the United States of America is intact, the strongest economy, nothing hurt its economy, it's still there. They start appeasing the people and the workers in Europe by allowing them to demand for benefits, social network, for free health now, free education. And all of that, since the collapse of the Soviet Union, the enemy which wanted to unite us to fight, is now, where is the free education? Where is the free health as we know, apart from the waiting list and dying in the corridors of RVH and here and there? All of these benefits, which before they showed us the soft fist of capitalism, now they show us the teeth of imperialism. And they've eaten us alive with their austerity measures and all of that. There is a little story which I would like to as well link two European countries to Malcolm, Italy, and I want to link Yugoslavia. During the Second World War, the Italians, after defeating Nazism and fascism in there, they were prepared in the election to vote, and all the voting polls were indicating the Communist Party of Italy is winning big time. What happened then? The United States of America told the Italians, like the Italians community who lives in America's Italians, like they are not Americans, you go tell your mama and your grandfather and your brother, and if you vote for the Reddies, there's no money going to arrive to you from New York or from Boston or from your wages. And they started the letters campaign. The Italian community in America, who they were treated at the Second World, you know what they treated the Japanese and what they treated the Italians, and the same thing in the Isle of Man in here. Was a big jail for anybody who's from Italian descent or Japanese descent. And the people, the Italian community in America were frightened were writing letters to their villages and towns in Italy, please don't vote the Red Zone. We will go in jail in here for it. That's what they told them. I'm not able to support you or sustain you. The Communist Party in Italy failed. Then another as well, where is the...
Just let you know,
go ahead.
And to let everyone know in the room, so there was a slight mix-up with Comrade Layla, but she's confirmed. She will be online in exactly half an hour.
Okay.
So what I suggest, you speak for another 10, 15 minutes or so. Jerry, if you could have 10, 15 minutes to speak.
5.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see what we got half an hour between now and Layla coming on live at 4:15. So let's see what we can get through, and maybe there's a little bit of time for a bit of questions, and then we'll go straight to Layla and we'll talk to her. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. You see, what I'm getting from this point, from the teachings and the advocacy of Malcolm about the unity of the revolutionaries, we failed, as I said, we failed Libya. We failed Libya. A beautiful country like Libya is being destroyed in front of our eyes today because, as I said, Libya was all with its own resources out there for us. My comrade Muhammad Hamza here was with me in a convoy we were taken to Gaza. We took from Belfast, London, Argentina, and New Zealand, and lots of comrades around the world with us. And we went, and the country, Libya, we were in Libya there. You won't believe the generosity of the people. That is 3 months before what's supposed to be the 20th of February revolution in Libya. Just 3 months before that. If we took a car to a petrol station, they won't take a penny for putting petrol in it. We never paid in a restaurant money to eat food. We never paid for accommodation. The generosity of the people and the Libyan government is amazing. And when I see people like that being called all the names on earth and being, they are against human rights, they call their own people, as you know, strange people, foreigners to them. They treated us with the utmost respect and generosity. Of course, I feel guilty for not being at the front line, fighting with the Libyan people against NATO. Because I was receiving their generosity when we were in there and there. So that is to me, from experience, not from talk or analysis, telling me who is the lying partisan here. The same ones lied about Iraq, the same ones are lied about Libya. That's why I was saying about Dr. Musa, he shouldn't be apologetic about that. We should be apologetic about that. The point in here, Brother Malcolm X was talking about a conference happened in 1955 in Indonesia, Bandung, called most of the global South countries, which is third world countries, they unite themselves together to be standing against imperialism and not with the communist Soviet Union at the time. They said, we want to create a third world, and they created the organization which still exists today, Non-Alliance Movement. There was 3 charismatic leaders then at the time. Was of Yugoslavia as well, Tito, who was leading the resistance against Nazi occupation, who united these countries and created Yugoslavia. You have the Indian Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, an intellectual, a fantastic socialist. And then you have the Arab revolutionary, Jamal Abdel Nasser, the president of Egypt. Those 3 people pushed forward with the idea and created the non-alliance movement. And it was very effective. You have 3 continents at the time standing against imperialism and supporting each other. Without this, we wouldn't see success in Algerian revolution. We wouldn't. Without this, we wouldn't see Cuba facing the blockade and still standing today with us and offer the world free medical help here and there. So that is what Malcolm was saying, but at the same time, Malcolm spoke of the impact of what they call it, I want to put it this way myself, the post-colonialism. This, he was trying to educate the American people when we start to decolonize our countries from the colonial institutions and what we're going to do and establish. But naively enough, or from us and from even a leader like Malcolm X, we forgot the way, at the time when the wave started in the 60s and 70s in West Europe of powers. Okay, let these African states and Asian states have their independence after they see what's happening in Algeria and in Vietnam and here and there. Hard rock revolutionaries taking empires on face to face and people succeeding. Even paying the price of 1.5 million martyr like in Algeria, and still a small nation like Algeria defeated France. France, which is talking about the resistance against Nazism and is still occupying another country. This is the hypocrisy of Western power when they talk about equality and justice. It's only for white supremacists, not for other nations. And that's the same thing when Wilson in 1919, the American president, talked about the right of self-determination for nations. What other nations he talked about except the white? Self-determination is only for white people. That's why the colonies existed after that. This is the hypocrisy which Malcolm was touching in a different way as well in the United States of America. So this movement and the impact of this post-colonial thing, the British left a lot of countries and left its agents in the same system, connected to the economy of the British economy. The colonies is being looted by the multinational companies. The pre-colonial forces, still their government running the show in there, their puppets running the show in the same countries. But the result is these countries face famines, face disaster, face poor education, poor health, waves of immigrants leaving the country. Once the great leader, I call him, brother leader Muammar Gaddafi, spoke an hour and a half in front of the United Nations General Assembly. And I was asked at the time myself and Norman Finkelstein to comment on this for TV debate while he was speaking live. And I couldn't find one point I would disagree with the leader Muammar Gaddafi. At that time, he read the Constitution of the United Nations, the Charter, and threw it at them. He said one major thing, which is, I want to repeat it in here. He said, those people, Libya, if Libya left its borders open, you will have waves, exodus of people coming to Europe from Africa. Those people coming to Europe, to Africa, not because they love just the country or this and that. They are coming after what you stole from them. They want to take it back to their countries. Give them what you took from them, and then no immigrants will be in Europe. That's what he said, and I agree with that totally. Those people cannot find jobs, education, health, time from Ebola and different diseases. And that's what empire created the system. But that system, it changed when it came to a country, happened in it a revolution like, I'll give you an example, Egypt. And then I'll talk as well when I continue in Yugoslavia. Egypt in 1952 was ruled by a system which is the British occupation created there, soft occupation I call it myself. Parliamentary elections, the king, everybody is there in the place. Then the military made a coup, revolutionary coup at the time, led by Nasser, after the disaster of Palestine, being taken by Zionism and helped by the colonial masters, the British who created that. The Egyptians wanted to develop their country, wanted to build schools, wanted to bring the peasants to the universities and bring health and education everywhere. They wanted resources, and the British started suffocating them with the Western and with the World Bank and the United States of America. So they went and renationalizing a program, nationalized banks, industries, and then nationalizing the Suez Canal. And what happened? We have the story of the Suez. The British, the French, and their puppets who just created the river. Huge war. Their armies came to occupy Egypt. The Egyptian resistance stood there and faced them for months. Then the warning, the political warning came from Nikita Khrushchev, the president of, the leader of the Soviet Union at the time. Tell the British and the French, if you don't withdraw this superpower will interfere in defending the people who are resisting the occupation of their country. That if you don't listen to the former colony and will give you the title you are independent, but you cannot use your own resources. I can use it to build schools in London, but you cannot use it to build schools in Cairo. Otherwise, you'll be punished in that way. And the Egyptians stood and fought hard, and they defeated them. Yugoslavia, as an example, as well, was one of the founder countries of the non-aligned movement. Tito, as well, we should feel ashamed of ourselves in here when we see what happened in Yugoslavia. Where is Yugoslavia today? Yugoslavia was pressed at the side of it, the Soviet Union, which I appreciate, because the Soviet Union done a great job in defeating fascism and Nazism, not the D-Day or the other ones. That's the way I believe. They contributed 27 million civilians and soldiers in that war to protect us from Nazism. We left Yugoslavia under the scenario which was used in Yugoslavia. If I want to bring it to a little bit of closer near, is the same scenario they're using today in the Arab Spring. They have the Free Kosovo Army, and the Free Kosovo Army, they have the Free Syrian Army today. Or force, the same sort of thing, the same K4 in Kosovo, they created the same ones in Libya, and even Al-Qaeda of Yemen follow the same thing, in Iraq, and the same. Destruction of Yugoslavia from one country to so many entities fighting each other on religious and ethnic backgrounds or whatsoever. This is the same sort of scenario they are in today applying in the Arab world. Where were we as revolutionaries or anti-imperialists to defend Yugoslavia then? I didn't see any march in the streets of Belfast or London or New York or anywhere to stand and defeat the Yugoslavian people, the Serb people, whatever, the Croatian people today, the Kosovan people. And these massacres, what happened like what's happening today as well in Syria and in Libya. Whatever name they want to label it. These are killed because they are Muslim, these killed because they are Croatian, these killed because they are Serbians. All who did that is empire to control that area and to devastate nations. Inside Europe, which in here, like Hitler did, Hitler didn't distinguish about human beings as they say, is Jewish or Roma or that. No. The first time Europe seen the camp mentality happen within its borders and white people being burned like Jewish, like Roma, like anybody because of their political stand against fascism and Nazism. Communists were burned as well in there. Socialists were burned as well in there. And those people, which we suffered, and we see that suffering in Europe, we will be mistaken if we think empire won't do that. Hitler wasn't socialist, as he calls. Hitler was the heart of empire, the heart of imperialism. That's what Hitler was. And today, we've seen in Ukraine, these Nazist forces who's taken Ukraine, who are supporting them today. Empire supporting them. The United States of America's Congress supporting them. You supporting fascism, you supporting the Nazis who devastated Europe, and we sit and watch. This is amazing. And that's why we have to go back and educate ourselves bit by bit about these things. As I wanna finish with this line. In 1916, I said that 3 months ago about a boycott campaign, a meeting you were in. In 1916, the British forces were gathering their armies from Egypt, which was under the occupation of empire, the soft occupation, and tried to invade Gaza. First campaign failed. Second campaign, 1916, failed. Then they changed the whole tactics. They brought the bear, they call it, the Limby. Even the bridge today between the West Bank and East Bank called the Limby Bridge. And they pretended they are not attacking Gaza. They brought water pipelines to water their own soldiers from the Nile in Egypt, through Sinai to the end of Rafah border. We call it in Arabic Masura, the pipeline. which today we have a village in that area named after that, called the Masura, at the border between Rafah and Gaza. And they pretended they're going to take on Beersheba, 1917, October 1917 in London, with the best prototypes at the time were airplanes and tanks. And they went to take Beersheba, but they took Gaza. The Gaza were there helping their brothers and sisters in Gaza's field. Why I'm saying this? Because at the same time, Monday, Easter 1916, the Irish revolutionaries were taken on in Dublin at the same time and facing empire. To me, this is a huge event in history. And we learn, if you don't know, we still learn, and tomorrow we'll learn from it. Because this was the first ever crack in the superpower, World War superpower. #1 military force, the empire which the sun doesn't sit on, was the British. And who are these people? 50 years ago, they were subjected to socially engineered famine and genocide in Ireland. And they are the survivor sons and daughters of that genocide, again, regaining their strength and facing empire and pulling the biggest punch in empire in Eastern Rising. And from there, we learned how small people being subjected to genocide can stand again and face the mightiest force on earth, as the Irish people did in Eastern Rising, and then achieve independence in 2/3 of their country, and then push it forward and forward, and they still, every day they prove they succeed and nearly accomplishing their project of independence. I want to read just this quote I got it from a comment. He said in it, okay. It was, anyhow, I think I remember it. I don't know what it is, but I remember it. It was, they say, in one day, the Irish Times, the London Irish Times said, at the time, during the famine in 1946, they wrote this, the London Times said, one day you will be a rare thing to see a kilt on the shores of the Channel. As it is a rare thing to see a red man on the banks of Manhattan. Today I say myself, who is the rare breed we see at the banks of Shaaath? I'm sorry to say that, but I hardly see an English gentleman in there. I see kilts in there. Thank you.